Moderator of Meet the Press, Chuck. Good morning. Chuck, good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning, Lester.
Let's talk about the symbolism of Ambassador Power's trip to Guinea. This comes at a time you've got states now enacting their own tougher policies regarding Ebola. Is the administration under pressure to regain at least the symbolism of leadership on all this?
Well, they are, but boy, they are so conflicted, Lester. I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of NIH. The federal government is not fully criticizing these decisions by Governors Cuomo, Quinn, and Christie in Illinois, New York, and New Jersey, but they're not supporting the decisions that they've made. They're very concerned about these mandatory quarantines. They are expressing the same skepticism that Ambassador Power did to Chris Jansen. And so walking that line, and Lester, you can't help but notice there is an election in 9 days. Is that having an impact on, is there politics behind the decisions on these quarantines where governors so afraid of looking like they're being too reactive, maybe getting overly proactive? So, you know, I think that's the line that the federal government's trying to walk.
Well, let's talk about that political question. It's one thing to look at the action of politicians. Do we have a sense of where the voters stand in this right now? We haven't really seen that many Ebola cases here. This is not an outbreak. Is it an election issue?
Well, you know, it's funny. I was through the Midwest all this week. I went to Kansas, I went to Iowa, and I went to Wisconsin, and Ebola really didn't come up. If anything that's come up outside of domestic issues, it was more ISIS. So in that sense, you don't see it too much on the campaign trail, but you do, you know, that's why you look at it and you say some of these governors, are they looking at the elections? We all now have Rick Scott down in Florida. Pat Quinn in Illinois, both are in tight fights for elections, so they don't want to look like they're going to get outflanked on this stuff. So, you know, politicians are certainly worried that the issue could become a voting issue. But when you talk to the voters, Lester, I'm not hearing it.
I've got to get your thoughts on our lead story this morning. U.S. Marines packing up, leaving Afghanistan, along with their British comrades. This is a president, a White House that promised it was going to take us out of wars, over more than a decade of war. Now we're fighting ISIS. Does that tarnish, does that take away some of the impact of what we witnessed this morning?
You know, I think it does. I mean, I think the public looks at it and says, okay, these troops are moving. They're not coming home. They're going to be having this fight's going to move somewhere else. And that is an extensive line of questioning I had with voters about this issue of terror and fighting. And on one hand, these Americans want to fight these terrorists over there. They're worried about it coming over to the shores. At the other, there's the fatigue is also there. So there's some conflict about it. But they also assume, frankly, Lester, that the fight's just going to keep going. And so they don't see it as a withdrawal. They almost see it as a transfer.
I know you're going to talk more about that, also about voter dissatisfaction with Congress and the White House from your road trip.